Hello and welcome to Stories in History. Today we will be delving into the intriguing backstory behind the name Southeast Asia. Before the 20th century, Southeast Asia was known by various names and divisions. The region was divided into several different empires, kingdoms, and states that had their own unique cultures, languages, and histories. But it was not until relatively recently that the idea of Southeast Asia as a distinct region began to take shape. Before we begin, I would like to thank you for visiting, but without further ado, please enjoy the video. Throughout human history, Southeast Asia has been known by various names. Indian navigators referred to parts of the region as Suvarnabhumi, or the Golden Peninsula, as the Malay Peninsula was believed to contain abundant gold fields. Chinese and Japanese navigators called the region Nanyang and Nanyang, respectively, both meaning South Seas, which included Yunnan Province, the peninsular kingdoms of Tibet and Cambodia, and the islands further south. Even ancient Greeks had a name for Southeast Asia, Chryse Insula, or Golden Island, which may have referred to either the Malay Peninsula or Sumatra. More broadly, the region may have been known as Golden Cheronisi, as evidenced by the work of the Greek cartographer and scholar and former general of Alexander the Great, Ptolemy. Ptolemy's work was based on earlier references to the region, particularly a man named Marcian of Heraclea. The Greeks likely borrowed from India the belief that the Malay Peninsula was a significant producer of gold in the ancient world. Even in the 17th centuries, Europeans still believed the region held vast amounts of gold. The earliest documented self-referential term for modern-day Southeast Asia dates back to the 14th century in present-day Indonesia. In 1336, Gajah Mada, a powerful military leader of the Majapahit, referred to the Malay archipelago as Nusantara, a term in Old Javanese meaning outer islands. Gajah Mada was considered one of the greatest leaders of the Majapahit Empire, famously vowed to not eat any food containing spices until all of Nusantara was controlled by the Majapahit. The history of naming Southeast Asia is a fascinating one, with various names applied to the region at different times. While there are a few self-referential terms to the region apart from Nusantara, there have been several terms used by outsiders to describe the area. The first recorded use of the term, like Southeast Asia, appeared in a memoir by Howard Malcolm from the United States, entitled Travels in Southeastern Asia, published in 1839. However, Malcolm did not define the term, and it seems to have included parts of India and China, but only some parts of what today we call Southeast Asia. For most of the modern period, Europeans referred to the region as the East Indies, which usually referred to the Malay archipelago, while present-day mainland Southeast Asia was called Indochina. After French colonization in the late 19th century of Cambodia, Vietnam, and Laos, the term Indochina came to specifically refer to French colonies, excluding Siam and Myanmar. In 1923, Viennese scholars and travelers began to use the term Südostasian, meaning Southeast Asian Austrian. Over the next decade, the term gained scholarly acceptance in the United States, China, the Philippines, India, and Vietnam. Other Europeans in Italy and Russia also began to use the term in the 1930s. However, the definition of Southeast Asia varied across disciplines and countries during the early 20th century, and the term did not enter common vernacular until later. Prior to the mid-20th century, scholars perceived present-day Southeast Asia as being an extension of India and China, evident by the terms such as Indochina for the mainland and Insulindia for maritime Southeast Asia. The former meaning between India and China, and the latter meaning Indian islands. As well as there's the less commonly used term Australasia, which was used to refer to maritime Southeast Asia, associating it with Australia. Ultimately, it was not scholars who popularized the term Southeast Asia, but rather the events of World War II. In 1942, the National Geographic Society published the first map labeling the region as Southeast Asia, mainly to help Americans follow the U.S. military's movement in the Pacific War against Japan. However, the map excluded the Philippines and some islands of the Malay archipelago east of Sumatra. The Allies formed the Southeast Asian Command in 1943, which also excluded the Philippines and parts of Indonesia while including Ceylon or modern-day Sri Lanka. After World War II, a more standardized definition of Southeast Asia started to emerge. The U.S. Department of State created the Division of Southeast Asian Affairs in 1945. Southeast Asian Studies programs soon emerged in the University of London and Yale University. The Western powers, especially the United States, realized they lacked knowledge of the newly independent countries in Southeast Asia, which made it more crucial to define what Southeast Asia was and what did it constitute. This was especially true during the Cold War, as Western Bloc countries sought to establish good relationships with these newly independent countries. In the 1970s, the term Southeast Asia became commonly used, and its territories were more clearly defined. This corresponded with the formation of the Association of Southeast Asia in 1961, which initially included Thailand, the Philippines, and the Federation of Malaya. The organization eventually evolved into ASEAN, or the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, in 1967, adding Indonesia and Singapore as member states. Today, Southeast Asia comprises 11 states: Brunei, Cambodia, East Timor, Indonesia, Laos, Malaysia, Myanmar, and the Philippines, Singapore, Thailand, and Vietnam. While some consider Papua New Guinea part of Southeast Asia, others include it in Oceania. All states with the exception of East Timor are members of ASEAN. Southeast Asia is incredibly diverse, both culturally and linguistically. Over the millennia, many empires have risen and fallen in Southeast Asia. It has also been a crossroads between different parts of the world, influenced by Indians, Chinese, Muslims, Japanese, Europeans, and even Africans. The persistent struggle to define Southeast Asia was partly due to this diversity, but is also more so the result of misconceptions about the region. Many Westerners viewed it as merely an extension of India or China, which skewed their understandings of the region. This bias likely stemmed from their political ambitions and desires to colonize the region. However, today Southeast Asia is recognized as a unique and dynamic region, which has increased global interest due to its rich history, delicious cuisine, and captivating tourist attractions. Southeast Asia's cultural diversity within the region is remarkable, with each country boasting a distinct identity and fascinating history. Even within individual countries, there is an abundance of diversity. Despite the growing recognition of Southeast Asia, it can still be challenging to pinpoint precisely what characterizes the region and makes it what it is. But honestly, that can be said about many regions within the world, to be fair. And that ends our story about how Southeast Asia got its name. These days, the term Southeast Asia really only is a reference to its general location on a world map and not necessarily says anything about its culture. But that's the end of our story. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. Don't forget to share your thoughts in the comments, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Bye.